Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our SpeakOut series. I'm Riley Chekarova, and I'm the Executive Director of the Bold Foundation and the moderator for today's career discussion focusing on the Glazier trade. The Bold Foundation has a very simple but important mission to inspire the next generation of construction professionals right here in the Greater Toronto Area. One way to do that is to ensure that young people have the information they need to choose a career that they're passionate about and can be successful in. This series facilitates discussions on the in-demand careers in construction and how young people can get started. Each panel is made up of industry professionals, including union reps, employers, and apprentices, to provide useful insights into the education and training requirements, physical demands, what to expect day to day, and advancement opportunities within the specific construction career. I want to acknowledge and thank our series sponsor, RBC Future Launch, for their generous support of this important initiative to help close the information gap and get more youth interested in construction careers. Let's hear from our sponsors now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Beckles, and I'm the Vice President of Social Impact and Innovation here at RBC. Today, youth are the most unemployed age group in Canada, with almost 800,000 young Canadians not currently in employment, education, or training. Canada's skilled tradespeople that have long been the backbone of our economy are more critical than ever, and so is solving this sector's main challenges: the underrepresentation of women and immigrants, the need to double down on digital training, and the ongoing stigmas around trades careers. And while these challenges are significant, so are the opportunities. Through the RBC Future Launch partnership with Bold, we aim to ensure that you understand what opportunities are available in the skilled trades industry and how to get started in a career that you are passionate about. Because at RBC, we see a future in your future.
Today's discussion focuses on a career as a glazier. Let's take a quick look at some of the work the skilled trade does on a high-rise building site.
Let's take a look at the window installers. It all starts with carefully positioning and installing a metal track to the concrete floor slab, which the crew will install the window sections into. Sections of window are double-checked all around for quality control, and then they are prepped to be lifted. Two installers, using industrial-strength suction grips, lift each window section into place. This system is called window wall, where the windows are positioned on the floor slab below and secured to the slab above. Once in place, the installer clamps the sections together. Then they drill into the concrete slab above. Then, using high-grade specialty fasteners, they attach them to the concrete slab above. A typical installation looks like this, and here you can see is another window system called curtain wall, where the window system is attached to the outside edge of the concrete slabs. This window system gives the look of a continuous wall of glass.
With that great visual of the work, let's meet our industry panel. Donald, let's start with you. Please tell us about your role, organization, and how you got started in this career.
Thanks, Riley. My name is Donald Lush. I'm a business representative for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, and my concentration is with the Glaziers, a local 1819. A lot of people don't know what glazing is. I got a lot of rabble-rousing for it when I was a kid because I'm a second generation. My father was a glazer. I've been exposed to this trade since I was a very young child. First time I ever touched a piece of glass and got paid for it was in 1992. Joined the union in 1996. Worked through my apprenticeship, doing all types of facets of the industry. It's one of the beautiful things about our trade. It is very diverse. There's nothing that's, it's basically anywhere you see glass and metal. So with that, in 2007, I finished my apprenticeship. I wrote my certificate to become a architectural glass and metal technician, journey person. And from there, after that, for a little bit, I had the experience. I was running a couple of jobs. One of the flagship jobs I probably did was the Toronto South Detention Center, installing all the security glass in it. Had the luxury of having a couple of apprentices to train under that, including family members of mine. And From there, in about 2012, I started getting more involved with the union and its executive positions, and started to move along the lines. And once I got to a certain point, there was a position that came available within the district council here for the painters union for local 1819, and which put me into the position of applying and getting the job. And ever since then, I've been representing close to 1,000 members within the GTA area, along with me and my partners. And that leaves us now. I've been almost 10 years, or just over 10 years with the council. So still a lot of learning, still a lot of different things, and many different facets of our trade, as I said, including not only the installation of glass and metal, but also automatic doors. I also take care of a couple of inside shops. Very, very diverse in regards to my workload. So thanks for having me today, Riley.
That's a great introduction. Thank you so much. And it's really great to see that there's lots of options and different ways that you can take this career once you're in it. Alex, let's go to you. If you can introduce yourself and let us know about your role, your organization, and how you got started.
Thanks, Riley. So my name is Alex Schickman. I'm the director and owner of BESI, which stands for Building Envelope Systems Installations. So I started much like Donald. So I'm not actually a second generation, I'm a first generation. I'm actually an immigrant. Got here in 95, finished high school, I think it was 99. Did the university, I did the Army Reserves, and then in 02, I got my first job as a glazier. So I did that for about a year, and I decided to try other parts, the other avenues. And within a year or two, I was back to construction because it just, it spoke to me. In 2007, I was on my own, and then in 13, I decided to unionize the company. And that's when we met with Donald, maybe a few months before that, and turned the company union, and then we've been growing ever since. So we started with smaller jobs and then got into the larger ones. For me, being in the glazing industry gives you a sense of accomplishment. So when you finish something, it's not like you sold a dress, not that there's anything wrong with it, or you sold a car to somebody, right? At the end of the day, you have nothing to look at. In construction, I'm walking around the city, I'm looking, oh, I did that tower, or I did this one, or our guys did that. It's kind of, you look around and you see what you've done with your hands, and it gives you an incredible sense of accomplishment, which I haven't found in any other industry that I've tried my hand in. So we've been around since 2013 as a unionized company, and in that time we went from 3 or 4 guys to over 40 guys on payroll right now, and we have starting from brand new apprentices to very experienced journeymen, and most of my guys have been with me for years and years and years, and gonna stay that way as far as I can see it.
Well, that's great. And I love what you said about the accomplishment, because it is very true that that's one of the most rewarding parts about being in this industry is, looking at something and saying, I helped build that is an unreal feeling. Kesha, we'll round off with you. Same question. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Keisha Ford. I'm an apprentice for the architectural glass. I started this trade when I was 25. I got into it with the Hammerhead program. So it's a program that brings you to all the trades to get a feel on what they do. And I got selected to be a glazer, which I love. I absolutely love it. I got started because I had no vision of what I wanted to do. And then I got into the Hammerheads program, and I realized that I'm a hands-on person and that I wanted to help build stuff, well, glass. Sorry, I'm not the best speaker, but.
No, you're doing great. Thank you.
So with the schooling, I finished all my schooling, which is basic, intermediate, and advanced. I am currently still wanting to learn more before I go right for my CFQ, which I'm going to make sure I do before the end of this year or before summer. But yeah, I love this trade. Like, I just want to empower everybody that's not going down the right path to try to find something that they love to do. And yeah, what else can I say? Um,
Well, that's great. You can really see that you're passionate about it. And I'd love to
yeah.
ask you some more questions about what it actually looks on site. So, without further ado, I think we might as well get into the discussion and start chatting a bit some of the questions that we've received from the audience already. So, Donald, maybe I'll pass it over to you and get you to start us with some of the basics. I think many people don't know what glazier is, and already the term is, like, what does that look like on site? We saw one part in the video, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about what this trade actually does as part of the construction process and what sectors glaziers work in?
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to, Raleigh. So not a lot of people do know what a glazier is. When you mention the word glazier, of course, there was for many years, I got a lot of rabble rousing, as I said in my intro. Are we bakers? Do we do cakes? Do we do anything of the sort? And that's been a long running joke within our trade. But it was a few years back, the province of Ontario, along with our representatives in the industry, had a name change for our trade. So although I am actually a registered glazier metal mechanic, our name changed to architectural glass and metal technician. By using the term architectural glass and metal technician, it gives a little bit more to the idea of what we do, where it is architectural glass. It is the installation. And at times it depends on, exactly as you said, it depends on what sector we're working in. In new construction, a lot of the stuff is prefabricated for us to be installed on site. Working in either the residential or the commercial section, there is different applications and different systems. As our video stated in the beginning there, that was window wall, and it was a really good in-depth piece on window wall to help understand the installation of it, typically done in residential application. We also work in the commercial sector, where we'll have unitized curtain wall, which is one of Alex's specialties, as well as specialty glazing, where we'll have spider wall and cable walls and everything of the sort, where you'll see, if you're in the downtown Toronto core, you'll see a lot of the ground floors have significant, the look of no metal and all glass. That's a lot more prolific within our industry as well. But I don't want people to narrow their minds. If you see glass and you see metal, we do that work. You walk through your mall and you see all the storefronts, the skylights and everything as you're walking through a mall. You're walking through your everyday grocery stores, your Walmarts, just the everyday store, just even the corner store. There is a door you walk through and there's glass and metal. That's a part of it. That is the type of work that we do. We also do a lot of different specialty facades, where we get into architectural paneling. We even have a case where my compadre here, Alex, he's down at the Rogers Center right now doing a full renovation. So there's all kinds of stuff and places that we get to go. The major projects that are around, if you look at Union Station, you have the whole glass ceiling that's over the track level. 81 Bay was a building that was just completed recently. There's so much and so many facets to this industry that is absolutely amazing. But the easiest way and the simplest way to explain it is, if you see glass, you see metal, that's what we install.
Well, I do love that. And it just really shows the breadth of how much work there is to be done. So I guess anybody who wants to join this career, there certainly won't be any shortage of projects for them to work on. And maybe, Keisha, we'll move over to you. And we'd love to hear about what your typical day-to-day looks like as an apprentice. And how does the scope of work change looking back to when you first started, as a first year and being so close to your certificate of qualification? If you can maybe just take us a little bit on that journey as to what you do on site and how that's changed as you get more experience.
Okay. So my day-to-day is getting up very early, but I enjoy that because I finish early. But everything's just hands-on. Like, I get to learn how to build stair glass. I get to learn how to operate doors. Like, you learn so much. There's so much to learn in the trade. I've learned a lot from my foremans. They teach me the basics of how to glaze, the right way to glaze, which is what we call in the glazing industry. From when I started the trade, I was not the greatest. Like, I didn't know anything about tools. So when they call that a green, like, you don't know anything about tools, like, you're just learning about the trade. So when I got into it, I was very much a green. So what I did was help teach myself. Aside from my foremen teaching me what they knew, I also applied what I could as a apprentice. I just never gave up. I just kept going at it, kept teaching myself what I needed to teach myself. But yeah, I love, like I said before, I love it. The fact that, like Alex said, you get to see things built from nothing to something is amazing to me. I'm working right now on LRTs, crosslinks, crosslinks sites. So I'm all over. I'm on Kennedy, I'm at Leaside, I'm at Bayview. Like, I'm just literally at every station building it from nothing to something. So yeah, I'm just happy I made it and I finished all my schooling, and that's just amazing for me.
I love that. And when that LRT is finally operational, you can just go station to station saying, like,
Exactly.
I built that one, I built that one.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's amazing.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. And
No problem.
Alex, we'll come over to you because you know, we heard a little bit from Donald about your work right now and as an employer in the space. Can you tell us what type of duties Glaziers do on Bessie sites and what skills someone should have to be successful in this trade?
So there's quite a wide breadth of different skills that you have to have, and also the different things that we do throughout the day. So in the video that you saw was window wall. So before you install a single piece, you have all the prep work that needs to go in and seals that have to go on, like blueskin and stuff, right? Once that's done, the window gets installed, but that's only half the job. Then the window needs to be sealed. So there's that. The second part you saw was actually the curtain wall. When they said on the outside, our guys actually install that one. So in that situation, we don't install by hand. We install with a crane. So it's easier on your back, right? So we have crane operators that are working with us. In terms of the skills, well, the skills will almost always be taught to you either on site or in the school, in case of an apprentice. When we hire, I actually really like hiring apprentices because, you know, I get them without any bad habits from somebody else. There's a lot of fly-by-nighters out there, and a lot of corners being cut. So the reason I attribute our success to being good at what we do, and that only begins is if you don't cut any corners and you do everything as you're supposed to, is, you know, and then, you know, spend an extra 5 minutes to do it, but you do it right, and then you don't have to come back later. So a lot of the skills that you know, somebody has to have to get into this really are just basic. How about, you know, the willingness to work, the willingness to learn, and just showing up when that's half the battle. And then everything else pretty much we can teach. But those basic things like willingness to work and that is just, that's impossible to teach. If somebody doesn't want it, they're not going to get it. So as long as somebody has those skills, it's really easy to get into the trade. And I think most companies are open to getting apprentices just for that exact reason that I just said. You get them brand new, and you get them exactly, you teach them exactly how you want it to be taught instead of getting somebody else's bad habits.
Well, I love that point, and to Keisha's point, it's great for the apprentices as well because they get to actually you know, learn live on a site and build up that skill set while they're getting paid. So, I mean, obviously I'm partial and I love apprenticeships, but before we go any further, maybe Donald, will come back to you to start unpacking some of these terms like apprenticeship for any one in our audience that doesn't know what that means. So can you tell us what that is and how it works for the glazier trade?
Absolutely. So the easiest way for me to explain what an apprenticeship is, it's a program of professionalism and there's many different apprenticeships that do exist, and I don't want anybody to be closed-minded to think that it's only the construction trades that have apprenticeships. Apprenticeship is a training program that's done where the training actually happens in the field and in school. For us, our apprenticeship itself is an 8,000-hour apprenticeship. So from the first day that you work on the tools, you work 8,000 hours. In that period of 8,000 hours, you do have to go to school 3 times, as Keisha was saying. She's finished her basic, her intermediate, and her advanced. Once you've completed 8,000 hours and your schooling, you're not done your apprenticeship. Well, technically you are done your apprenticeship, but that doesn't mean you're at the top level yet. At that point, there is a government exam called the Certificate of Qualification. It is a government exam that you take through the ministry, that once you've met all the prerequisites and the pre-requirements for the trade itself, you then have the ability to go write the government exam. Once you've written the government exam, you then have the luxury of calling yourself a journey person. I'm not sure if there's any more you needed in regards to the apprenticeship itself, but that's it in a nutshell.
No, I think that's great. And I guess just one follow-up question. How long does the basic, intermediate, and advanced school portion take?
Okay, so through the 3 terms, there are 8 weeks per course. So in your whole tenure of your 8,000-hour apprenticeship, 6 months of it will be in school. It's actually kind of cool because we have a few financial things that are set up through our apprenticeship, through our collective agreement, where our apprentices get $1 an hour deducted from their paycheck. So when they're in school, it's always a big concern in regards to finances. So when you work your last week with your employer, you'll take your layoff, start school on the following week. At the end of the first week, you'll receive your final paycheck from your employer from the week previous. On the end of the second week, you'll receive what's known as your AEF, your Apprentice Education Fund. And if just to throw roundabout numbers out there, let's say you worked 1,500 hours out in the field, there will be $1,500 essentially waiting for you in your savings account for when you go to school to offset while you're waiting for unemployment to come in, so you can do your it alleviates some of the financial burdens, especially because a lot of the times now we're seeing that the generations that are coming in now are probably in their early to mid 20s and some in their late 20s. So they're already coming in with established families. They're having issues with the financial end of means to get through and make sure that their families are taken care of while they go to school. But it is a requirement to be as a part of the apprenticeship to make sure that you finish your schooling, you finish your hours, and you write that final exam of the Certificate of Qualification.
That is one of the best explanations I've ever heard on that question. So thank you so much for sharing that in such great technical terms. Alex, maybe we'll come to you for some of the technical aspects of it, such as, I know Keisha already told us that she gets up quite early, which I know is common for anyone really in construction, but I'd love to hear from you, from an employer's perspective. What are the average hours, during the days and for the week? And then if individuals, because, looking at that window wall from the video, can individuals expect to be working at heights and in all weather? If you can speak a little bit about those conditions.
Okay, so we work 10 hours a day for 4 days a week. So I think our union is one of the few that allows a 4-day work week, but that it means slightly longer hours during the day, but less days through the week. So usually guys will start around 6 o'clock and finish around 4:30. That gives you 10 hours in one day, 40 hours in 4. And then you have your long weekend every weekend. That does come with getting up a little bit earlier and getting back a little bit later, right? Some of the others in the industry will get up, start on the same time, but they'll finish around 2, but then have to work the Friday. Most of my guys always prefer to do the 410s instead of the regular 5/8s. Second part of your question, yes, absolutely. You will be working at heights. That is a prerequisite. I mean, it's only for every building with a ground floor, there is 60, 70 that are not ground floor. So just that ratio there tells you will be working at heights. Although I have to say, I do have some members that are terrified of heights, and we try to position them either on the job site that doesn't require them working at heights, or make other exceptions for them where they can do their work without having to be exposed. But that's kind of an exception. I think most people are fairly comfortable with it. Yeah, and in terms of all weather, yeah, it's 365 days a year. I mean,
With that great visual,
our weather
let's
days
meet our
are very
industry panel.
few
Donald,
and far in
let's start with
between.
you.
I
Please
mean,
tell
if
us
it's
about your
raining,
role, organization, and how you
yes,
got
we
started in
can't
this
work
career.
because the silicone doesn't stick, right? Or if it's too cold, sometimes it's below the threshold for the product to work, so we kind of have to take those off. But you know, with proper planning, we usually have some interior work, so for those days we just shift the guys to go to the inside if there's, you know, possible. So like I said, it's very seldom we actually lose hours in a week because of the weather. Well, one of the other things with the 4-day work week is if we lose a day because of weather, we can make it up on a Friday. So we're still getting our hours without losing our weekends.
That's great. Yeah, no, thank you. That was great. And I also personally, I love the flexibility. I think anybody would love to have a long weekend every weekend. The one that just passed was quite nice. Kisha, maybe we'll come back to you, and I'd love to hear about sort of the physical demands of the role. So if you can talk a little bit about, like, do you have to be really strong? Is there endurance component to it? Why don't we start with that, and then I have a couple of other follow-up questions.
Yeah, it is very physical. It's a physical demanded job, but they are very like lenient with you. So like if it's anything over like 300 pounds, they're obviously not going to make or allow me to do that. But I'm very determined and I like to be involved. So I don't find it an issue for me, but for other people it might be an issue. But yeah, it's heavy glass, heavy doors, heavy rails, like, but I don't have an issue with the physical demand of this job.
You just get to skip the gym, right? And roll your workout into
Exactly. Very, very much so. Because afterwards I'm so tired. So yes, it does pay my physical due. So I'm good on that aspect.
Well, that's great. And I'd love to stay with you and just ask, while we're on that subject, what do you find most challenging about working in that trade? And then what is the part of the work that you like best?
What I find most challenging is just like trying to, I would say, pick up on how to do certain things, because it's not like there's certain people that don't really like pass down the knowledge that they have. So like that's why I say it comes in where I have to teach myself sometimes. But yeah, it's not really challenging. I just get up and do what I have to do, right? Just never quit. Just keep going at it. So
I love that. And what is your favorite part about the work?
I would say my favorite part is building, like just seeing how it comes together, everything, even with the other trades, it just looks great. Like that's my favorite part, just being able to be a part of that building inspiration. So that's my favorite.
I had a feeling you'd say that based on your previous answers.
Yeah.
And in terms of the challenging, I mean, I love that. And it's just the perseverance. You know, what I heard you say sort of is find your mentors on site that are actually going to teach you, and, you know, push through. If you don't know, figure it out.
Yeah, seriously.
That's great. Thank you. Donald, you get the privilege of answering our always most popular question, which is, of course, the money. So
yeah, I found that weird. I thought Keisha would have said the most rewarding thing is Thursday come payday, but I guess that's a side note. I guess that's the bonus for her. So yeah, we get paid well for doing what we do. If we're going to talk about apprentices when their first year, if they're working in the ICI sector, which is the new construction sector, They start out at a 55% rate, which right now is $23.89. See, I had to refer to my little notes here. It's $23.89 for a 55% apprentice. Now, a 55% apprentice will stay at that rate for the first 2,000 hours of their apprenticeship, and every 1,000 hours thereafter start to increase to 5% until they max out at the 8,000 hour point of 85%. Once they've gotten to the 85%, they're finished their schooling, they got their hours, they get to write their certificate of qualification. Today's day, like as of today, if we're looking at February 21st, 2023, our guys as a journey person are getting $43.44 an hour. But we do also have a collective agreement, and May 1st, be prepared for this, Alex. May 1st, $45.12 is what our journey people are going up to.
That's not too shabby, especially for the starting rate. I would say that's well above the minimum wage and the last stats I saw. And that's probably changed considering the inflation situation that we're in right now. But the living wage in Toronto is $22 an hour. So I would say even at the starting rate, that is a very good place to start. Kisha, as you said, being very green and learning from there.
Additional to our rate, we also do have the other package that comes with it, where we do have 10% vacation pay. Where we don't get paid for our stat holidays anymore once we're in the construction in the union realm, but we do get 10% vacation pay. So by law in Ontario, it's a 4%, which is 2 weeks holidays. There's 10 stat holidays that are recognized within the construction industry. That would be another 2 weeks, it brings us to 8%, and we get 10%. So we get a bonus of almost another week, I guess you could say, of holiday pay. Also to that, we also have the additional portion, which it does take a while for an apprentice. They don't get it right away, but after you've been an apprentice for a few years, or actually 3,000 hours, it's not even a few years, it's about a year and a half, they'll start to receive pension contributions, as well as from day one, when they first start working, they start to get their benefit contributions. So when we're looking at a total package for one of our apprentices when they're first starting out, they're looking at $23.89 an hour. They're looking at 10% vacation pay. They're looking at an additional, it's about $7 an hour before the pension contributions. And after the pension contributions come in, then we're up to about $12 an hour. So these are all additional to what they're getting paid on their check.
That's fantastic. And maybe young people that are watching this are not fully familiar, but there's very few places that guarantee a pension at in this economy. So that is a great overall package. Kisha, I'd like to come back to you because, I don't think there's any secret that women are still very underrepresented on site in construction, and yet there are so many great opportunities, and you're building such a great career for yourself in this field. Can you tell me about your experience as a woman in this profession, and if you would recommend this to other women to get started?
My experience to this profession has its ups and downs, but I would say any young person that would like to get into this trade, they just have to be like mentally strong, because the construction trade, obviously there's guys where grew in the trades back in the day, how they grew up, right? So it's like it's different now. But yeah, I would recommend it at this trade. It's very empowering. It's uplifting. You get to see and learn from other people and how other people do stuff. So yeah, I would say, like, as a female, it's like you do get looked off or you do get underestimated, but if you're determined to prove yourself and to just show up and do what you have to do with your task at hand, I'm sure you'll be fine. You'll make it through whatever it is you want to do in life.
Well, I love that. And I'll just, share a personal here that it's frustrating being underestimated, but it's also very rewarding because it's like, come on, I dare you.
It motivates you to go strong. It motivates you to want to go harder, to be honest.
Absolutely, it does. Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Well, Alex, Donald, I think we've got a great view of what the trade actually looks like. So thank you all for sharing that. And I'd love to move now and talk about how people that are interested can get started. So Alex, I'll come back to you and say, does someone need to have any experience or any particular training to get started? And what do you look for when you're hiring, new apprentices?
So on the experience front, not so much. I mean, it helps, but you don't need it. In terms of training, there's 3 things that you have to do to get on the construction site. It's working at heights, which is, I think, a 1 or 2 day course. There's WMIS, which can be done for free actually online. And then there is the 4-step worker awareness, which is offered by the ministry, and it's also free. And that one's for life, as long as you don't lose the paper, right? That's the bare minimum that you need. But you obviously need your boots and a hard hat and that. But other than that, there's nothing else that you need to get started. All you got to do is pick up a phone and call in and say, hey, I want a job.
Well, that's great. And maybe I'll just do a quick follow-up in terms of safety. I mean, I think safety has grown tremendously in construction. This is certainly not the time where, you remember those people on the iron workers sitting 90 stories in the air with no safety harnesses and anything like that. So I think considering the trade safety might be a question that comes up for people. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, considering the safety training that's required?
So the safety training is absolutely the minimum you need. Most of it you will learn on site. As a company, we've taken a slightly different approach, and we're going a little bit above and beyond. It's called the CORE, COR, Certificate of Recognition. It's registered with the IHSA, and basically it's a set of rules and stuff you have to hit before you get that certificate, and that's all it is about is safety. So in addition to when somebody gets hired with Bessie, they have to spend about 4 hours going through our policies and job hazard analysis and methods and the procedures, you name it, right? So it's about 4 hours it takes additional, which also you get paid for that as well. So yeah, safety is a big thing. Obviously, I don't want to say only we do, but most companies take it pretty seriously. And if they don't, well, the general contractor, when you get to a site, will probably send you packing if you're not doing something right. I mean, these things they've become basically 1-strike rule. If you're not hooked up when you're supposed to be, you're working on the edge without being tied off, or even being improperly tied off, you can get sent home, or you could be barred from site for good. So most companies, I will tell you, are pretty serious about it.
That's great to hear. And I love what you said about it being a collective responsibility, that it's, individual, company, and, developer, contractor, everybody has a shared interest in that. So thank you for sharing that. And congratulations for going above and beyond. That's really, really great to hear. Don, I'll ask you a similar question just from the union and the training center perspective. What do you look for when you're assessing for new apprentices to start their training or to join the union? Are there any basic requirements? And I know this is always a question that comes up. Do they need math?
Very much an asset. I will say that it is very much an asset. We do have our minimum requirements. And it's not us that set the minimum requirements. The minimum requirements are set by the ministry. And the minimum requirements to get into our trade and to start your apprenticeship is you need identification. So proper identification, driver's license, a passport and whatnot, social insurance card, pretty straightforward. But the minimum education is grade 10. I will always tell you that I would always suggest working on getting your grade 12, because once you've gotten your grade 12 for our trade, you're actually awarded 400 hours towards your apprenticeship right off the bat. So you could cut your apprenticeship down from an 8,000 hour apprenticeship to 7,600 just by having your high school diploma. Without the other things that we look for, we can usually tell when I have somebody scheduled to come in and see me. We'll get random phone calls. We get cold calling. We get friends of friends call, family members call. One of the key things I always look for is if I schedule you a time to come in, are you on time? If you're not on time, that's usually one of the downfalls. I will see that they will have issues moving forward, because as it goes with Alex itself and many of our other glass companies that we work with, it is a partnership. We are supplying a commodity to these people that say that we're the best of the best in this industry. And if we're going to pride ourselves to be the best of the best in this industry, we have to be able to provide the simple things such as time management. And time management to me is a huge thing. The second thing it would be is your attitude. I get that today's generation, I have a couple of kids myself, and I can see some of the, I always want to watch my words when I say it, but I can see some of the degradation from like when I came up within the trade and seeing the differences between the generations today compared to where I was. And I see right now a lot of the formalities are starting to miss. It is some of those small things, and I can banter back and forth with the apprentices that I come in, but it is a good feeling when a guy comes in or gives me a call the first thing and says, "Good morning, sir. How are you?" As opposed to some of the other wording that we get is, "You got a job for me?" It happens, and unfortunately it does happen. And I find the professionalism is extremely important from what I'm watching, because you are setting yourself up to be setting up yourself for a career. You're not just getting a job. You're not just walking out and going to be stacking shelves for the next year. You're looking in some cases that this is where you're going to be for the rest of your career. And how you present yourself is extremely important. So the presentation of how you do yourself, whether you're on time, whether you hit all the prerequisites. Yes, math is important. I'm not going to lie to you. You need to know how to read a measuring tape. It doesn't mean that you need to know it on the first day that you walk onto a site, but you need to have the aptitude to be able to pick it up. It's incredible. The amount of stuff that we can actually, there's a lot of, and it's a lot of different factors I look at when we're bringing in new people. And one of the bonuses that we have is we got people like Alex, who in some cases, because of his contacts that he's had in the industry itself, he's been able to almost screen them before they come in, and whether or not they hit us. And then he'll contact me and say, "I have a guy for us to sign up." So there's many different facets of which we look at, but never hesitate to give me a call. But it's always a good point to make sure you try to be as professional as possible.
Well, I love that, because that's and that's not just for the industry. You know, I would be remiss to think of any industries that would respond well to, you know, "Do you have a job for me?" rather than "Good morning."
It does happen.
Start off with. Yes, and you know, we all got bills to pay, but I totally get, you know, what you're trying to say there. And I think the main takeaway is that these are very few technical skills there, and with someone that has the right attitude, a lot of doors can open for them. But I know that a lot of youth are nervous about the math component. So maybe, Kesha, I'll ask you, how scary is the math? Did you have issues with that? And sort of how did you find that part of the job?
Truthfully speaking, math is not my greatest subject, but I taught myself with the help of the teachers from the school. Like, they would give me like exercises to go over. So yeah, I think I got pretty well in it, but it was very challenging in the beginning, for sure.
Well, there's that great attitude, right? To just persevere and push through. I think, honestly, even for me right now, thinking about doing some of the grade 10 math would probably be scary, but it's amazing what you can do with a refresher to just remind yourself of these basic concepts.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So we just have time for one more question for all of you. And that is, what is your advice to anyone who is interested in pursuing a career as a glazier? So Kesha, we'll start with you.
I would say once you get into it, don't give up, keep pushing, and that it's actually a great, because for me it changed my life, to be honest. So I would say like anything that you persevere in, you would do good. So yeah, just get into it and don't give up. That's just basically what it is. Don't give up at anything that you do. So
I
that's
love
my
that. Thank
advice.
you.
No problem.
Perfect. Alex, we'll go over to you.
I'm just gonna go Nike. Just do it. Go ahead, get into it. It's really easy to do, to get into it. And well, I guess one thing we haven't discussed, and I would say there's a lot of talk right now about recession and economic troubles. Well, I don't know of any other industry except maybe, I don't know, food industry that is as recession proof as ours. I mean, first of all, if there's anything that is going to fall out of it, we won't feel it for the next 2 to 3 years, because if a building's in the ground already, it's just going to keep going up. So by the time by the time that effect of a project not getting started is felt, in 2 years, well, there's other projects already on the way. So in 08, I didn't really feel anything. We never missed a beat. We just kept going. So I think it's a great industry to be in. And let's not forget, Toronto's getting what they say 200,000 new arrivals every year within Toronto. Well, they got to live somewhere, and somewhere's going to have windows and glass.
Yeah.
This is it.
Here's hoping, because otherwise that's one depressing place to live in, and work, and community centers and schools. So you're absolutely right about that. Yeah, the in-demand component is certainly an important concept there, as well as when we talk about automation, and some certain roles getting replaced by technology. There's
yeah, I
was gonna say, I can't wait to see that happen in this trade. Not happening anytime soon. Donald, we'll give you the last word for what is your advice to anyone who is interested in pursuing this type of career.
Okay, so unfortunately for the standpoint we're at here now, I would honestly have to take my my Glazier hat off and put on my district council hat. We represent a few different trades at our union. So we do represent the painters, the drywall finishers, as well as the Glaziers. For anybody that's getting into any of the skilled trades, study and know what trade you're getting into. This could be something that you're choosing for the rest of your life. And I had a really good mentor of mine a few years back tell me that if you really love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I've always taken that really close to heart, because a lot of the time when I was working out on the tools, it was that bonus that Keisha was saying. It was a bonus to get paid for it as well, because the sense of accomplishment, the sense of everything that you can. But whatever it is you're getting into, make sure you enjoy it. Do some research, look at whatever trades are out there. I am very partial to the glass trade. Yes, this is the trade that raised me. It raised my family, and partially it was actually, even my son was in this for a little bit, so there was almost a third generation. He decided to jump out and go into a different field. But just know what you're getting into. The other thing is that I find is exactly imperative, and it's what I've already talked about before, is work on your punctuality. Make sure that you're presentable. I know we are in construction, and there is a very big misconception of how rough and tumble we are. Yeah, there might be some colorful language that floats around. There might be those type of things that we deal with. But the reality is when you're putting someone like Alex, who is employing these guys, and again, to put it to us flat, we're the last string within in the world almost, where you can make upwards of over 100 grand a year doing what we do and not spending a cent on education. You don't have to go to university for many years. You don't have to do the training that some of our doctors, our lawyers, and some of the other professions you have to do. And yet we're up there making the same type of money that they are. So make sure that you are looking at that idea of being as professional as possible, being open-minded, just wanting to learn, be on time, and know what you're loving, and know what you're getting into.
I really love all three of these advice, and I think you're absolutely right. There's just different types of learners. Kesha, you said you're more of a hands-on learner, and not everybody, wants to be in a classroom day in and day out in order to do that. So that balance between the classroom setting and really majority of it being on the job is really great. Not to mention, I think a lot of people who are trying to deal with their student debt right now would have appreciated knowing about these different types of pathways. So thank you all so much. This was such a great discussion. It is all the time that we have for today. And I just want to thank you all for sharing that experience and that knowledge and being really honest with our audience and anybody who's, interested in getting more of that information so that they can make the right choice for themselves. Make sure you keep an eye out for our next episode where we'll be discussing careers in masonry, including bricklaying. A recording of this discussion will be posted on Bolt's YouTube channel, as well as the SpeakOut page on our website, boltonline.org. I want to thank again all of our audience today, our industry panel who took time out of their very busy schedules to share their insights, experience, and advice. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.